Hi TV is here at the Elegant Cinnamon Live Colombo for the AmCham SL CEOs Forum 2025. This event brings all the Sri Lankan leaders together to discuss about future growth and private sector opportunities. Stay tuned with Hi TV for more highlights of this event.
It is an honor to welcome you to this event, a gathering of esteemed business leaders and industry experts. I know that all of you here in this room would not be here today if you hadn't already achieved considerable success in your respective fields. The results being testament to each person's individual vision, resilience, and unwavering commitment. However, as we look ahead to 2025 and beyond, we all know that the business landscape is consistently shifting, bringing both challenges and opportunities. Throughout this forum, you will hear from distinguished speakers and panels who bring diverse perspectives and valuable knowledge. I encourage you to engage with the ideas presented, reflect on your own experiences, and consider how you can use these insights to navigate the complexities of the year ahead.
Please take a moment to look at the photo displayed on the screen. This picture, taken in August 1992, shows the founding members, most of the founding members of AmCham Sri Lanka. You might be pleased to know that many of the founders in the photograph were from the US Embassy and USAID, including the US ambassador and mission director at that time. It was taken in front of Independence Square, a fitting symbol of collaboration and progress. This is the logo we have been using from the beginning of this year. This subtle yet meaningful update reflects our commitment to growing and evolving while staying true to our core values and mission.
Now, it's a year of transitions. As we know, the new Anurag Kumara Dissanayake government just started a few months ago, and in 5 days, we will have a new swearing in of our own new president in the United States. And sometime in this year of 2025, you will see a transition of ambassadors as well. I don't know when I'm leaving yet, so please don't throw me any farewell parties yet. But as we gather at the beginning of 2025, it is fitting to take a moment to reflect on the year ahead, what AmCham's role is, and in the sessions this morning, you'll hear about these different topics, from geopolitical factors, digital economy, and most importantly, opportunities in trade and investment. We welcome the Sri Lankan government's commitment to staying on track with the IMF program and finalization of its international sovereign bond restructuring, and also to its commitment to combating corruption and working with partners like AmCham to create a transparent, rules-based investment climate that will drive growth.
We are here with the US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Ms. Julie Chang. Ms. Julie, how are you doing today?
Great, Happy New Year, hi.
Happy New Year to you as well. How are you doing? So, what do you think about today's event?
Well, it's great here to be with AmCham and its first large event, CEO Forum. It's an opportunity to hear about the challenges, but opportunities for investment, trade, expanding that in this coming year.
What is your message for Sri Lankan business owners as they kickstart this year 2025?
I think it's a message of partnership. U.S. companies, Sri Lankan companies coming together, sharing innovation, resources, ideas. There's a lot of promise in this coming year, and I think I'm hopeful that we'll be able to expand that trade and investment relationship this year.
Since I'm talking in a context of strategic dimensions, to some extent an opportunity for a more level playing field opened up, where all have a fair shot. Now, how that pans out will depend on all sides. Us in Sri Lanka, as well as our main trading and strategic and political partners. And across all fields, not on one or the other. So I think, but the important thing about moving into this year is that there is an opening, a door opened if one wants to walk through. And it is in that setting that I urge all of you who are in the business sector to look at this year.
We're here with Ms. Neelika Tilakaratne, the Secretary General of AmCham Sri Lanka. Miss, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So, Miss, what are the initiatives AmCham Sri Lanka is about to take to uplift private sector businesses in the future?
So, we started this year with our CEO forum. This is just the start of some of the things we planned for our members as well as non-members in the business sector. What I would like to mention is that this CEO forum has been documented. We got the support of the Kotalawala Defence University's CSA section to document the discussion that took place, and they will analyze and give a couple of outcomes, and this publication will be available to anyone who missed the program today.
Amazing, amazing. So, anyone out there, you can have that, watch that as well, right?
Yes, definitely. It will be available in our website.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Miss, as for your perspective, how important is global networking and global partnership when it comes to a private sector business?
Very much so. In today, when you take the geopolitical shifts that are taking place today, it's very important that local companies and international and multinational companies work together. And given the fact that we are coming out of economic crisis, our main purpose is to facilitate any of these businesses who wish to elevate Sri Lanka to the next level.
Ravinata, the question would be, with this shifting geopolitical landscape, how can Sri Lanka use the changes to capitalize its trade and investment incentives from both local and international stakeholders? And what can policymakers do about it?
What is the next space? What is the next product? What does it take to manufacture to that market, that product, and try to work your line? That's the way I think apparel started. Shreyan, you might be able to reflect on that. And incrementally developed to stay abreast of what was going on and work to economies of scale. So that is my very specific way in which and I'm talking across the board. There are many stars which shine a little brighter, but not enough to kind of get the market, stay there and thrive.
With shifting geopolitical dynamics, how can Sri Lanka's taxation and fiscal policies be aligned to attract more FDIs? Are there any specific incentives or strategies you believe would be particularly effective?
The perfect timing in terms of geopolitical shifts as well in trade, where people are moving value chains out of China and people are relooking at sort of diversifying supply chain and sources. So this is the time, I think, opportune time to move and look attractive and put our value proposition out there. So for that, I think there needs to be some sort of policy discussion, policy sort of brainstorming that our government also needs to do, and I suppose we as AmCham can support that.
How does the US view Sri Lanka's strategic position in the Indo-Pacific, and what initiatives or trade agreements are being explored to deepen economic ties and enhance bilateral trade opportunities?
Ambassador Chung also made reference to our TIFA, which is our Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, which is our main mechanism for talking about trade on a bilateral level. We're hopeful that there'll be the next TIFA meeting later this year, schedule dependent. I know there'll be a lot of questions today, maybe even on this panel, about the upcoming administrations, their trade policy in the United States. And the short answer is it's too early to tell. We have until January 20th when the new administration comes into power, and they'll be formulating their policies along with their secretaries and other representatives that Ambassador Chung mentioned.
But if you look at all of these instances, unfortunately, Sri Lanka has not really been able to take any benefit. if you look at, say, our apparel exports over the last 5 years, they've still pretty much been around the same level, around that 5 billion, little bit below, a little bit above. But we seem to not be able to capture on this. And I think there are two pieces to this. One is scale. We just simply don't have the scale. So just as an idea, Sri Lanka's exports to the US, apologies, my numbers are slightly old, but I think up to about September last year, Sri Lanka was about 1.3 billion. Against that, Bangladesh is 5.5, 6 billion. China is 19 billion. So on the face of it, it doesn't take a large shift to be able to make a big impact here. But we just simply don't have the scale. Sri Lanka is a small country. We supply, again, depending on which statistics you take, between 1% to 2% of global trade, global apparel trade, and but we just don't have the land mass, we don't have the people, we don't have. So I think we have to be sensible about what benefits we can take.
So with the geopolitical shift in our colleagues started looking out, and they had a great example, AmCham report. We were one of the best performance delivery company in the group. For example, our DPPM for last 12 months is 0. And our on-time delivery, despite COVID challenges or economic crisis or due to Red Sea, has not gone beyond 98% other than couple of critical times. So with this all good records, definitely the confidence they had, our colleagues and the investor had great confidence. So when they're looking out, we pitched in and we started encouraging them to invest here in Sri Lanka. And for the value addition we do, from design, manufacture, sales, after sales, everything, the cost structure in the country is very attractive. And duty-free benefits we are giving to the manufacturers by BOI, very attractive.
We're here with Ms. Chamila Bandara, the title sponsor for CEO Forum 2025. Ms. Chamila, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thanks.
Amazing, amazing. Ms. Chamila, what was the most exciting part of today's forum, and what insights did you provide to the entrepreneurs out there, and what insights did you yourself gain?
Well, the first panel that I moderated was all about, the geopolitical landscape, the opportunities that are coming up, and how can Sri Lanka leverage on this. So I think we've had some very insightful panelists sharing their views, especially on fiscal reforms and how tax can play a key role, and how to attract FDIs into the country. So the session was very good, yes.
Indeed. Ms. Chamila, if you could give a message to the global entrepreneurs out there, the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs out there, what would that message be?
Well, the ambassador Ravinath, in his keynote speech, did mention that doors are being opened in Sri Lanka. And if you're ready, you can walk through, and you have to be ready as Sri Lankans. So for me, that's the message. Things are happening, but it's how we are going to capitalize on it and take up these opportunities.
Right. One more last question. So, Ms., as the title sponsor for this exciting and insightful event, how important do you think is global partnerships when it comes to developing a business?
Well, global partnerships are very important, and I think we did talk about it, the FTAs that are currently in place, and all the other networking opportunities. So AmCham is also very key, will definitely play a key role in fostering these networks and partnerships.
About 15 years ago, when I was a schoolboy, I wanted to deposit some of my small savings, which my parents give me as pocket money. And I entered the bank at about 2:55. And when I went to the counter, the person behind the counter said, "It's 3 o'clock, I cannot accept your deposit." Because that was the rule about a decade ago. And very recently, I'm getting some household construction work done, and my mason boss wanted to deposit some money. I tried it online, which didn't work. For some reason, I wasn't sure. I went to the bank counter again to deposit the small amount of money, and the person behind the counter again chased me away, saying, look, we cannot accept those small deposits under this counter. There's a machine outside. You can deposit it through that machine. If you look at that time frame, you understand what happened with the digitization, where the same person who was in front of the counter, who was chased away for depositing money because I was late by 5 minutes, and now the same person being chased away trying to deposit a small amount because it's not even acceptable, and you can see the killer look from the person behind the counter, like, are you joking me, like, to come depositing this money in a counter? So, but of course I have been chased away for 2 different reasons during 2 different time frames. And the topic is need for acceleration of digital economy and expanding access to finance. And why it is so important during this time, the reasons are different. We first need to understand the macro context and the game that we are going to play.
We're here with Mr. Gabriel Grauf. Mr. Gabriel, how are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Mr. Gabriel, how do you see forums like this helping Sri Lanka's economy?
Bringing together the private sector, which really should be the engine of growth for Sri Lanka moving forward, we have to have forums like this to collectively decide on what actions need to be taken. How do we advocate with the government? How do we advocate with civil society to ensure, again, that the economy is at the forefront and private sector is allowed to grow as the engine of growth of this country?
If you could give one message to the business owners out there in Sri Lanka, what would that message be?
I think that message would be act collectively. Collective vision is what's going to move the country forward. There are many, many stories globally of private sector organizations such as this one, AmCham, and others, Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce, etc., that get together to really empower the changes needed in the economy, the policy changes needed that will allow the private sector to grow. But you have to act collectively, and that's a critical component.
So, Kavinda, businesses in Sri Lanka and US face distinct yet interconnected investment challenges. Now, this is a 2-part question. From your perspective, what are the most pressing barriers these businesses encounter when accessing capital? And also, what steps can financial institutions take to mitigate these challenges?
Whether it's tax, whether it's land, whether it's people, whether it's education, whether it's reforms, all these things boils down to policy consultancy, policy consistency. I worked with the largest multinational organizations and handled probably the largest investments to Sri Lanka over the last 10 years. And deeply honored because we worked with the US Embassy given my previous role. And the main concern for people to come in and the concern for people to delist and leave the country was policy inconsistency. That is one of the most easiest things to say and one of the most difficult things to do. And number 2 is the elephant in the room, corruption. It's sad to say over the last 15 years, I've worked with multiple agencies, whether it's BOI or getting regulatory approvals on investments, and the challenge that the investor has to go in. You're talking of hard currency coming into Sri Lanka. Actually, they are doing a favor bringing that investment into Sri Lanka. This is my personal views, by far no way of the institutions that I work for or represent to. We watch TV, we use televisions. We used all those things when we were going to school with the assistance of Japan. The Rupavahini Corporation, the Sri Lanka Telecom, these are examples of low-cost funding, grants, technical assistance. Sri Lanka is now at a stage where they can actually start looking at this, and obviously US has been playing a significant role in this. We are the largest exporter to the world in terms of Sri Lankan exports. US is the largest market for Sri Lankan exports, and I think by far the way we look at our model, this will continue to be. And then yes, we can look at other areas as well. So there is a very strong relationship with Sri Lanka and the US, especially on trade and investment and commerce.
What are the key fiscal and regulatory reforms should the government be prioritizing to address the investment challenges faced by businesses in Sri Lanka to attract not only the foreign investments but also the local investments?
Definitely, land is a main issue, as I highlighted in my brief remark, because I think if the government were to invest and remove regulatory barriers, it has to be on the land. According to the statistics, 82% of our land is owned by the government, including the forest cover. So that's a lot. And investors are really struggling when they try to find land. And that digitization we have to look at overall. Now everyone want to have the digitized platforms and all that, but when it comes to digitizing land, I think a lot of people are taking a step back. Which should not be the case, because when you only digitize, you can capture your taxation, your investment, your payment gateways, everything.
Foreign entities, when they come and invest, especially the large corporates, they are very keen to look at the data governance policies. So my question to you is, what steps can Sri Lanka take to align its data governance policies with international standards, and how can this alignment enhance investor confidence and also help the economic development?
The threat picture to the digital sphere is very real. If you saw the Salt Typhoon hacks on U.S. telecoms in the last month, Sri Lanka, I'm sure, has similar threats. So we think about this from a frame of building digital solidarity, and that really is an effort to both counter malicious cyber activities, but also enhance technological resilience. The U.S. would love to see rights-respecting approaches to digital and data governance. I know I've talked with several of the corporates here who are well out ahead of Personal Data Protection Act compliance, and that's really good. But that also needs to be universal across the digital sphere here. Transparency, accountability, and protecting personal data in accordance with that really well-written law is key, and it also creates a predictable and secure environment for businesses, and is crucial for attracting FDI. Companies need to know what their expectations are with regard to data and how to handle data if they're going to think about investing in Sri Lanka.
How do you see the digitization driving economic modernization in Sri Lanka? Because you work with not only the financial sector but also the other corporates as well, especially on the manufacturing side. And second part of the question is, what specific industries or sectors do you believe to stand to benefit the most from accelerated digital transformation in Sri Lanka?
India has a low IT literacy compared to Sri Lanka. That's number one. Number two, when you look at the internet and device and mobile internet penetration, Sri Lanka has a much more higher internet penetration and mobile accessibility in the country. So if you look at these two examples, we as country, as Sri Lanka, we should be able to adapt the digital platforms and the technologies much more faster. So if that's the case, why we are lagging behind? There must be a reason. So the first thing is the policies. The policies required a lot of time, understand 360 view of the context, and bring the right regulatory framework for government and the citizens to align, including the private sector. So the first thing is, if you look at where the problem is, it the tech, is it the knowledge, or is it the policy? You feel like we need to work on the policy side of it. So again, it's something to do with the knowledge as well, with related to data governance policies and a lot of other things.
There are so many other good, talented entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka who don't get the support because our banking system does not support entrepreneurs or great ideas. It's always, could you have a collateral which you can bring for us to support it or whatnot.
So the more that the government comes into support hand, of course they have to have their checks and balances. Every checks and balance also comes with some level of regulatory mechanism, because otherwise you have to compromise on the other side, on the transparency side. So best is, the first defense line is don't intervene at all, let them do. So minimize the regulatory barriers, make it easy to register a business, easy to access land. That's the you reduce the front load cost. Then if you really need to give cash, okay, take the risk and bear the cost of some of the interest during the first phase, that's, I would say, the way to frame, to look at it.
Many countries have also adopted similar approaches as well.
So if you can just elaborate on the key programs USAID is currently implementing in Sri Lanka to support the private sector growth, and how do these programs align with the country's economic recovery priorities?
USAID has been in Sri Lanka since 1956. In fact, before USAID even existed, 5 years before USAID existed, it has been in country. We could summarize the overall objective of what we do is creating a more inclusive, dynamic, and sustainable economy.
What does ADB do to promote private sector participation in sustainable development, and how can private sector better align to take advantages of ADB funding for that?
So we have financing products, but also non-financial products. So on financial products, so these are loans, equity investment, as I mentioned. We push with technical assistance projects that can help do this upstream work before identifying the viable commercial projects that then we can provide downstream financing. So this is one way to create this enabling environment. Once this upstream work is done, then our private sector teams, operation teams, are stepping in for more ample discussion for direct financing to businesses.
The theme of today's CEO Forum was Elevate Sri Lanka. Now we know that as a country, we have been reeling from one crisis to another since 2019. So while 2024 probably gave us some level of alleviation, we certainly could do with some elevation in 2025. I trust today's event gave us some food for thought on how we could go about elevating our businesses, our economy, and our country.
We are here with Mr. Shirendra Lawrence, the president of AmCham Sri Lanka. How are you doing today, sir?
It's been a good day so far. Yeah, I'm doing fine, thank you.
Indeed it was. So what is the major focus of the CEO Forum 2025?
So American Chamber is in place to foster bilateral trade between the USA and Sri Lanka. The theme of today's event is Elevate Sri Lanka. And the idea is for us to help our members and a wider audience that are here today to understand the current challenges and opportunities and see what we can do to help them to navigate those. And of course, to make the best of the opportunities that are out there.
Of course. So one major aspect that was discussed in the panel discussions was attracting global investors. So for your perspective, how can the private sector businesses attract more global investors?
Well, I think Sri Lanka has been through a tough time over the last few years. So for people to move funds into Sri Lanka, there needs to be stability for a little while. I think the way things have gone in the last 18 months to 2 years is very positive. And a lot of the speakers today, including from the banks, we had a number of speakers from the banks, also talked about the fact that we are on that journey. So I think it'll take a little bit of time, but we're in a better place. I think we have to leverage on all the benefits that Sri Lanka offers, our global positioning, and those sort of factors. So hopefully the people here today got some perspective of that.
And that's a wrap for AmCham SL CEOs Forum 2025. It was very uplifting and insightful. Stay tuned with Hi TV for more exclusive events like this.